In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel, episode number 80.
Number 80.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to make it to 100. It's going to take a long time to get there.
Nah, I mean, at this rate, what is next year?
Oh, yeah. Mid next year.
Yeah.
By the time that people come to the realization that maybe they should get the coronavirus vaccine instead of just conspiring about it, at that point in time, we'll be up to 100.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe slightly before that time.
Alright, anyway, let's get straight into it. First things first, the NFL, like we normally do
Yes.
on our podcast. Let's go over last week's standings. Things to note, the Steelers are no longer undefeated.
Yeah, well, when you can't run the ball, you don't really deserve to be undefeated.
Yep.
I don't know how the Patriots did it all those years where they basically didn't run the ball. And they seemingly did just fine, but
yeah, but like their receiving core was just like always performing.
No, it wasn't. It always performed as a group.
Yes,
but never
as a group.
individual.
I didn't say a single a single name. As a group, it was there.
I mean, Randy Moss that one year, I guess, but like other than that, it was not.
No,
it was not.
There was nobody that like splashed out on their receivers, but it's not like it didn't exist as a group.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right.
Anyway, yeah, so we're finally getting to teams clinching playoff spots. So right now that is the Saints and the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken.
Saints and the Chiefs?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, Saints, the Chiefs are the only other team at 11-1, and the Saints at 10-2.
And then the Raiders are somehow, I think, in wild card talk, despite the fact that they needed a Hail Mary to beat the Jets.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude, that was so
If
bad.
you're not the team that gets the bye, I feel like you kind of want the Raiders.
Yeah.
Because, like, you have no idea what you're getting.
But, like...
Actually, you kind of do, and you kind of don't want the Raiders for that same reason.
Because on the off chance that you know you're getting the Raiders that played against the Jets.
Now, I don't know the Raiders' schedule, but if by chance they close out the regular season with a trip to Jacksonville and barely win that, you probably don't want the Raiders the next week in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's just a theory. Again, This is all just, there's no truth to if they're playing Jacksonville right now that I'm aware of.
Yeah, otherwise the AFC South, the top two teams are tied at 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the NFC West. Giants are still ahead of the NFC East for no reason.
The Cardinals are reeling off of 3 or 4 straight losses.
Yeah.
They went to really good to just
meh.
Basically. I mean, that's pretty much the correct characterization.
Yep. That's why I said it. Yeah. Otherwise, like, the standings really haven't changed much.
But the weird thing is now that the 49ers and the Cardinals are both playing in the same stadium, if you combine their record and go solely off win percentage, you still are in the same exact spot. Just like pretty much at the same level.
Oh, God. Yeah. Any other team you want to take note of?
I don't know. People think that the Falcons are doing good now, but that doesn't really mean shit anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of like they might be doing good, but they still have those moments where you're just like, yep, this team is
This
that's
is the
bad.
time of the year where the Vikings have the potential to, come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So be wary of that
Uh-huh.
because it very likely is coming.
Okay, yeah. Jets are still 0-12. No surprise there. Yeah.
Brady lost back-to-back games for with Tampa for the third time in his career.
Yeah.
Is like the first time, so like one more loss could basically put Minnesota ahead of Tampa Bay
Yeah.
in the standings, or at least tied with
Wild
them.
card. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, right now, we're in a position where if Tampa Bay and Minnesota screw up, then we could have two NFC East teams in the playoffs, and that's just really scary.
Yeah. Looking at these standings right now.
The world is and is not at the same time ready for that.
Oh. But I mean, like that's kind of hard though because like you have the Seahawks Seahawks and Rams who are basically going to take one of the wild card spots at this point.
So what's your thought process now on the Giants? Because they beat Seattle. The Seattle defense in recent weeks has played better than it started out in the first 7-8 games. But
But
do you take anything of what the Giants have done in the past 3-4 weeks and say that you're on some kind of a roll now?
no, I like okay, don't get me wrong. I think the
Don't get
Giants
well,
have been doing pretty good, but
yeah, given the circumstance.
yeah. But at the same time, as much as I want it to happen, I am not like expecting or like, or I'm at least not expecting it to happen. It'll be something that could happen with the way they're playing, even given these circumstances.
But here's the thing: I understand that, like I said, Seattle's defense on paper is better than it's been playing, and how it's been playing this year is not very good.
Yeah.
But when you go to Seattle and beat them with Colt McCoy as the quarterback, you may be onto something, and I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it's something.
I mean, but like the thing is, right? You I really don't think you can expect the that play style or like the effectiveness of play in Seattle that we've had consistently. I just don't. Like if you look at how we played for the previous like 9 games or whatever it was, 10 games, and you look at that game, sure, I think the Giants played well. I'm just saying, like, if you average it out, it's it's still like it still could happen. It's just I'm not like, oh, this is definitely gonna happen and all
So,
that.
where are your thoughts going into tomorrow? Then you guys have the Cardinals.
I mean, with the way the Cardinals are
You
playing,
guys are the underdog by 2.5 points as it stands.
I see. The thing is, with the recent results of the Cardinals, I could see the Giants winning it, and yeah, like I could see it with the way that the Cardinals had been playing and the way that we're playing in the past 2 games. It's totally plausible. And like sure, and it's only 2.5 points. It's like a field goal, man. Like that I
Exactly what it is.
yeah. So it's not like also like that also shows like the odds are not so heavily in the Cardinals' favor according to the books.
My thing, I don't know. This is weird because the Cardinals on paper, not on paper, at this point, they need a get right game.
Yeah.
This is probably their best opportunity at it, but will they be able to capitalize on it?
Mhm.
They're not going to get much better chances in facing teams with bad records.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I need to see like the way they've been playing their past 3 games. doesn't show that like they can get to a point where they're like hyped up and playing well enough for that get right game at the start. If Yeah, so I don't know. I can see the Giants winning this game.
All right. Okay.
Okay, on to our next NFL topic. Take it away.
Yeah, so we get to go through the onslaught of what it means right now to be a Ravens player because of Des Bryant, who somehow, some way, was able to get all the way to warm-ups, testing positive for COVID during warm-ups, shortly after he hugged what looked like a trainer on the field, and then he got pissed off. Keep in mind, this is a Des Bryant who is basically like back in the league for the first time in like 3 or 4
Yep.
years, and he immediately called it quits.
Yep.
So we don't know for sure if he has called it quits or if it was a rage thing, but he certainly seems
I mean,
upset.
he's also that type of emotional person where he will call it quits and then stick with it. So it's totally plausible that he actually called it quits.
With that,
Huh?
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And then
I'm
like
looking forward to it, but I don't agree that it's going to happen right now.
but that also shows like COVID is still pretty rampant in the Ravens camp, which is a problem. Pretty big problem still.
It is and it isn't because of the whole, once you have it, you're immune to it for 3 months thing.
Yeah, but like that.
Look, they had like 20 plus guys on a 53-man roster have it already.
I know, but that's
But only half the team can get it again.
Yeah, it's
Like worst case scenario, they have an outbreak as big as the one that they already had.
yeah, but that's still a problem.
Because
Like
the thing is, their starters get to play this time.
But the point is that like if you have 20 people have it, right? It doesn't matter. You still have another 23 people that can get it, and then you're still rotating in other players. So it's just like there's something wrong with how they're handling it at some level.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that like, oh sure.
And of course there were no consequences for it.
Yeah, and like that's a problem, I think.
It's funny because other teams who have had fewer COVID cases, like the Titans didn't have this many cases the week of their outbreak, and I think their consequence was they were going to lose draft picks. Not heard one word about the Ravens potentially losing draft picks. I think I heard that the strength and conditioning coach that was like the patient zero of their own outbreak was going to get fined. And that was pretty much it.
And like so it just shows that like there obviously is something wrong with how they were prepared to deal with an outbreak. Because I don't think we should still be talking about a Ravens COVID outbreak for 2 weeks. It's been.
You get COVID from a crab leg? That's the real question here.
No, it's not the real question here.
Well, I mean, is it okay? Is it food poisoning? Food poisoning to COVID?
Anyway.
There has to be some inner harbor connection here. Either that or just the Baltimore dumpster fire of itself kind of thing. Like the wire shit. I don't know.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to some other football, huh? Some college football.
I do want to say one more thing. I think it's a little bit weird that Des Bryant was on the field, tested positive, and there wasn't some kind of like, we need to shut this down, vibe to some level. Is Mr. COVID positive just walking around on the field? And I get that he said that he's tested negative since then, but if you test positive, like there should be more of a reaction than there was. Everybody was like, well, let's just get him off the field.
Yeah.
Like, well, he's been in a locker room with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
All right. So anyway, let's take a look at some college football standings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Leading, we have Alabama and Notre Dame.
Yep.
No surprise there. The most wins.
That'll probably change though, because Notre Dame plays Clemson for the ACC championship game.
Yeah.
Because this year Notre Dame adopted a full ACC football schedule, whereas they otherwise are independent every year. So they get to play for the ACC championship game.
Yeah, but Clemson's right behind them at third.
Yeah, well, Clemson has Trevor Lawrence this time too.
Yeah.
So they'll probably flip-flop, even though, I don't know. If Notre Dame beats them twice, I don't think Clemson deserves to be in.
Yeah. Ohio State is at 5-0 at the 4 seed, which...
Ohio State, who is getting the benefit of the doubt, and they're allowed to...
only
so
play
the Big Ten,
6 games or whatever.
The Big Ten made a rule that in order to qualify for the conference championship game, you had to play at least 6 games. They then bent over backwards and broke their own rule and allowed Ohio State to play the Big Ten championship game with only 5 games under their belt.
That's this is why I don't like the season. It's like a complete write-off. It's so bad. But then again, in no other season would we see NC State at 8-3 at 23.
Yep. No, you're right.
Or Missouri at 5-3 at 25. So, I mean, it's just like that. I feel like that's a problem. I really don't think you should have less than 8 games played and be close to the top 10. I really don't think so.
Oh, Sean, right now, I'm sorry to break stride here. Auburn is at the free throw line. If they hit both free throws with 0.9 seconds left, the over hits. Come on. Oh, no, this guy's missed all the free throws in the world. No.
We'll get back to that.
God.
Anyway, yeah. So as I was saying, I don't think you should be anywhere close to the top 10 with less than 8 games played at this point. We'll leave him to his celebrating madness later. Just don't follow his example, kids.
I don't follow my own example.
Otherwise, most of these rankings don't look too bad.
He initially missed the second free throw. Or not initially, intentionally. God damn it. It was at 145 and a half. Fuck.
Anyway, so what do you think? What do you think about a less than 8 game played team being in the top 10?
I like it. I mean, and we talked about this before to some extent. The problem is that you have to give props to the teams that push forward and tried to play a full schedule. Granted, health-wise, it's probably not the morally and ethically right thing to do, but they risk themselves more, and they should be rewarded more for their risk.
Yeah.
So I don't like that they are rewarding Ohio State for being lesser of a complete team that played a complete schedule. And granted, they were supposed to play at least a 6-game schedule. It's not completely on them for what has happened, but
at the same time, it's 5 games. Even the normal season, that's so low of a number. And I understand that we're supposed to play 6, but then everybody just bends over backwards for them anyway. It's kind of annoying.
Well, yeah, I don't like that the Big Ten as a conference has flip-flopped so much either.
Yeah.
Because they decided that, hey, we're not going to do football, then we are going to do football, but we're going to do 6 games. But we're going to, say you have to play all 6, then to change back and forth. It was you at some point, and this is so weird because in sports it doesn't seem like this, a commissioner as they initially did when they said they weren't going to play. At some point, somebody has to make a stand and actually commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And in sports, that seems to like not happen a lot.
Yeah.
But you really need more. And it's funny because the NCAA is like the most strict sports organization in the world. They don't even let transfers play like immediately in like 9 out of 10 instances. So it's if you're gonna buckle down, you buckle down. You don't buckle down and then say, well, except for the guys that bring in the most viewership.
Yeah. Right.
The NCAA profits off their name, so you can't bend over backwards to their players who you are not paying.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense as a business model.
Anyway, on to the other college sport. Some college basketball. All right, so recently there were a ton of game cancellations and postponements. So right here,
pretty much every day that there's been a college basketball game, there's been postponements.
Yeah, but yeah, right here on like if you're watching the broadcast, we have 10 games that have either been postponed or canceled.
Yeah,
on here.
At least, yeah, 10 games,
and that's a lot. Like it's getting to the point where this like what's gonna happen with their season, because it can't keep going like this.
Sorry, the University of Illinois has a player with the last name Cockburn, and I just think that's worth noting.
Okay, anyway, moving on. So, yeah, so we just wanted to bring this up because, like, if we look at both the NCAA for football and basketball, basketball has had 28 games postponed as of today. December 12th.
No, that's today.
Today. Oh, on today. Ooh.
Yeah.
And then NCAA football has had 9 games postponed today. And 2 teams have declined their bowl invitations, which are Pitt and Boston College.
So, yeah. And this is probably going to be a wave that you'll see more of, I think, because COVID is so uncontrollable. And unfortunately, because of all these bowl games are sponsored heavily, too.
Yeah.
The problem is their endorsers and sponsors are going to lose a lot of money, but a lot of the bowl games probably aren't going to get played this year.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, I think, and from what I've heard is, I think the Boston College head coach, his team declined it on the basis of they'd rather the best gift that they can give their players right now is to be able to see their family instead of COVID and then spend even more time like isolating, quarantine.
Yeah.
So just not worth it.
Yeah, that's a fine decision. Like it's a decision that everybody's gonna have to make. So I commend them on making it.
And getting back to the money thing, it is the decision that is going to cost the NCAA money, but
Yeah, but I mean, like we're getting to the point where it's getting pretty bad in a lot of places. You're seeing cases spike up in a lot of places, so we'll see what goes on.
Yep.
Especially as it gets like colder out and like the standard flu and all that starts coming.
Yeah, did you get your flu shot, Sean?
No, I gotta go get it.
It's not good.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. On to the NHL. We got quite a few things to talk about. So the tentative date or confirmed date for start of the season.
Confirmed.
Huh?
Pretty much confirmed.
Pretty much confirmed.
As far as we know, it's confirmed, but we don't
have an announcement.
We don't have like a breaking news kind of deal going.
We don't have like an NHL announcement, but it's
that mostly could be because of the popularity of hockey.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're targeting the season start date of January 13th, where training camp would start 10 days earlier. I actually think they're doing pretty well on the timeline if that's the case. And so there's already the big problem for hockey in terms of what sets them different from the other major sports is nobody can travel to or from Canada right now.
Yep.
So all the Canadian teams are their own division. And there are only 6 of them, by the way.
They're just gonna play round robin, or not round robin, rotation until. I mean, I guess it's good that you don't have an 82 game season.
Yeah.
If you just play the same, well, there's only 6 teams, so you only play 5 other teams
Yeah,
for
but
56 games.
Did they confirm 56 games? I thought it was going to be in the 40.
I thought it was somewhere in the 50s.
Oh, okay. Well,
I could be wrong, but
yeah,
Let me
I
look
could have
that up.
seen wrong, but yeah, because it's going to be if they have to play, they're basically going to play each team 10 times or 11 times. Which, I mean, if I was a hockey fan, like in Canada, that's actually pretty cool. But like, you're going to see the same game 11 times, man. Right? But on the U.S. side, we get a Northeastern division. So Boston, Buffalo, Jersey, both New York teams, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Washington.
okay. So we have this is as of article on December 4th. They were trying for between 52 to 56 games.
Okay, but we also know since then they've pushed the season back 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, even 52 games, you're still looking at playing every team if you're Canadian 11 times or 55.
Yeah.
So
Either way, still enough to be like every Canadian matchup is indeed a rivalry,
yeah.
which for the first time in many years is true.
Yeah. But yeah, so we get in. So as far as we're concerned, we're in the same division for this year, though.
Wait, hold on. We have from NHL on their website. Oh wait, now it says this is from October 6th. Never mind.
No.
Google says that this was from 13 hours ago. This says it's from October 1st
Yeah.
or October 6th. Never mind. Disregard. Sorry, I thought I had breaking news.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, we have an northeastern division where Pittsburgh and New Jersey are in it. So
Same as all.
yeah.
Same as always.
I mean, they're basically
Name a year where they weren't in the same division.
well. I mean, the thing is, right? They're basically combining the Metro and whatever. Like, what are they? The Atlantic or the Atlantic, the Southeast? I don't even remember. But yeah, they're basically combining the 2 North divisions that don't have or without the Canadian teams, and the Southeast is basically just adding Chicago and Detroit from the Midwest and Columbus. So good luck with that.
I read someone on Twitter who saw this tweet and was like, Buffalo might have a chance in that division. I'm like, he said, given how weak that division is, and everybody was on him like, that's the weak division.
Huh?
Everybody was like, look at Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado,
Dallas,
Dallas, LA, San Jose, St. Louis, Vegas. There's like 2.5 good teams there. Vegas, St. Louis, maybe, and Colorado if they haven't lost everybody to free agency.
Yeah. But I think
sure Dallas will hover around that fringe line like they normally do.
Yeah. But that means they're basically a half a good team anyway, if they hover around the fringe line.
Well, that's what I mean.
But yeah, like the top 2 divisions actually are like, especially with the amount of teams in them, that those are going to be pretty cool games to watch. And then
the Canadian matchups are going to be really cool to watch too for the first like 3 weeks, and then it's going to get really boring.
Yeah,
and then at the end of the season, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
because of the physicality.
The thing is, right? I'm going to be like, I'm going to love the Canadian matchups at the beginning. Then I'm just going to fall back to watching all the Jersey games anyway.
Exactly.
And then at the end of the season, those Canadian matchups.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then the playoffs are going to be like any if you get any Canadian versus Canadian team matchup in the playoffs, has the opportunity for like the taxi squad to be like 45 players deep
I mean,
because everybody's just going to get beaten up.
the problem with that becomes like, okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, you're probably going to see 2 teams per division come into the playoffs and have like an 8-team playoff. At least that's what it should look like, right? If they align it this way, I think.
There's only 4 divisions. How they can? Oh,
8?
never mind.
2 times 4 is 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
But
so
then
they're just doing an NHL total 8 team.
yeah, I'm saying for the playoffs, like
They're scaling back the playoffs by half for the teams.
yeah, that, or would they go back to 12? See, the problem with going to 12 though is half
12.
the Canadian teams make it.
No, it was 16, not 12.
I don't know, but like, how do you see the problem with going to 16 though? Is you'd basically be taking 4 from each division, right? Because you like right now with the way it's lined up, like the Canadian teams aren't going to play anybody else. So you're basically like each of these divisions are only going to play each other.
Just go March Madness style. Give us 1 versus 16.
But the thing is, right? Like, how can you say out of 6 teams 4 are going to make it? I mean, and then out of 8 teams 4 makes it, right? So like these divisions aren't aligned for like.
There is no good answer
yes,
here.
Exactly.
This is the logistical obstacle that you deal with when, like, it's not like they were going to put more teams in Canada to level the playing field.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
Like, those teams are already there. You have to do with what you have.
Yeah.
So, it's easier to say the system is unfair, but for this year we deal with it, than it is to say, well, the teams are unfair and we're going to deal with it.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the system, like, the way that the playoff teams, if they go for 16, are going to be decided by taking like the even amount from each division, which is probably the way they would do it, is not really fair. And that's all I was bringing up.
I mean, fair is out the window at this point. I really don't know. I think the Canadian teams are at such a disadvantage in that they only are playing against each other for a whole season, that if they competitively, because for scouting reasons, they are going to, by some point in time, have the others figured out to a point where either everybody's going to be like airtight in that division race because of, you have enough time to analyze a trend and really like perfect your defense to that, or it's going to be something where someone really runs away with it and then you have
but also you could also look at this in a way where like we have the Canadian teams, right? So they're all playing each other. So I wonder how the play style that evolves like during the course of the season will kind of settle for the Canadian teams versus a 9-team division in the Northeast.
My theory or my feeling is, if point wise it's airtight, then I'm fine with saying, if you're going to do 16 teams, do a wild card system and send 2 out of each division and then 4 wild card teams. Because at that point,
you need to send 8 wild card teams, right?
No, 4. Because you'd have 2 division automatic bids.
2 per division makes 8, so you're still missing 8.
If you're still doing conference wide and you're putting, I don't know which side, say it goes on the West for the Canadian teams, because you have Carolina, Columbus, all Tampa Bay, then you have Buffalo, New Jersey. So you have mostly Eastern oriented conference already there.
Yeah.
So you'd send, say, Colorado and Vegas out of that one division in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd send, say, Toronto and Montreal as the other 2 qualifiers. Then you have 4 wildcard teams to fill with the rest of the spot.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think if it's an airtight race, then they deserve to fill those spots just as much as the Pacific Division does.
Right. But also at the same point, you could argue that like since each of these, since Canada's like a closed bubble, and like you should theoretically each of these are like closed, right? So like they're not going to touch any team outside of those.
In theory,
you should just take an equal number of teams from both because you can't really compare them against each other.
You know, there's also something to the theory that the NHL is just putting all their chips in the basket of the vaccine, and that they're hoping by playoff time there's enough of a societal norm that people have the vaccine that they don't have to worry about the border walls or anything like that either.
I mean, yeah.
You're still looking at like a May to July kind of, or May to June playoffs.
Yeah, and I think we're all expecting that. So, yeah, but
the expectation is that by late this year, it'll have that societal norm.
No, but like I'm talking about like May to June playoff is what we're expecting, not the vaccine societal norm.
But I don't know. It's weird too because if the East, if you're gonna do it one way on the East, you have to do the same thing on the West.
But also,
if the thing is that if you look at the East and you don't put any Canadian teams in the East for playoffs because of this, then how do you, if you're putting 8 teams per conference, how are you going to do playoffs?
But also this conference thing, right? We have 9 teams for the Northeast, and then you have 8 teams, if I'm not counting wrong, for the Southeast, I'll say. So that's 17 teams, right? And then you have 8 plus 6. Yep. Right?
14.
That's 14 teams. So that's also like a larger distributional difference than we normally have in the 16 to 15. Right?
Yep.
So, I mean, like, I just want to see some hockey again, so all this is speculation, and we're just trying to have fun figuring it out, but
my brain's starting to hurt.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. But, like, yeah, we're both excited for hockey again. Can't wait to start watching it again, even though it'll be in a month from now. Anything else? Anything you want to leave us off with?
I do not have anything else on the brain right now.
All right, well, it was a shorter one than normal today, but thanks for tuning in, and catch you next time.